Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mohawk Valley Community College. How are we doing this afternoon? It is truly my pleasure to be here. First of all, it's my pleasure to be out of Albany, to tell you the truth. Second, it's my pleasure to be here with all of you in this beautiful college, this great facility. Your great president, Van Wagner, let's give him a round of applause. How many students are here today? Raise your hand. You want to know? Give the students a round of applause. You want to know what a great guy President Van Wagner is? He said any student who is here today, 5 points extra credit for being here. Isn't that great? Give him another round of applause, President Van Wagner. I want to thank Mayor Rafaro very much for his kindness. He's been a friend for many years. Great job as mayor, and it's a great partnership that we have. He's always been very kind to me, and it's a pleasure to be back with him. Give him a round of applause, Mayor David Rafaro. I'm here with one of my great brand new commissioners. Some people say, well, you know, Rowan was a loss to the area. No, 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 no. Rowan, first of all, is going to do more good things for her district than she's ever done before because she has more power than ever before to do good things. And second, Rowan was too talented and too good and too special to keep just to yourselves. You have to share her a little bit with the rest of the state. Commissioner of the Office of General Services, Rowan DeStito. Stand up, Rowan. Senator Joseph Griffo. Senator and I have many similarities. We're both from Italian-American homes. We both like cannolis. We both are still trying to please our mothers after many, many years. And we still are both failing to please our mothers after many, many years. And we've worked together for many years, as the senator mentioned. There is one difference between us, which is the senator chose to enroll in a different political party than I enrolled at one time. One of us was right and one of us was wrong. No. The senator is a Republican and I am a Democrat. But I'll tell you what is special about this. We work together in a really cooperative mutual partnership. And that's one of the things that has to change about Albany. It's one of the things that has to change about Washington also, by the way. The partisanship, where people put politics before the people. And when you watch how Albany works, or you watch how Washington works, and you watch the legislature, you watch the Congress, you always notice the vote always seems all the Democrats one way and all the Republicans the other way. Did you ever notice that? Whatever the issue is, the issue could be any obscure issue. What color should we paint the door? All the Democrats want one color, all the Republicans want the other color. It can't be that all the Democrats always agree with all the Democrats and all the Republicans always agree with all the Republicans, whatever the issue. It can't be. What it really is that they are voting for their party ideology and they're voting with their party leader more than they're voting in the interest of the people in their district. That's what it really is. And that's what has to stop. That's what has to stop. You don't send elected officials to Albany or to Washington to do their political duty. You send them there to do your duty, to represent the people. One of the best things we've done in Albany thus far is we're working cooperatively, bipartisan, nonpartisan. We're working together on the issues that affect the people to make this a better state for the people. And I applaud the senator for his partnership, for putting politics aside and be willing to step across the aisle and work with Democrats in the legislature and with a Democratic governor. I couldn't do what I have done thus far if it wasn't for the partnership on both sides of the aisle, and I thank them for it, and I thank Senator Joe Griffo. Give him a round of applause. I have been governor for about 5 months. I know it feels like a long time. Especially for me, it feels like a long time. These were long 5 months. If you added up all the hours I worked in the 5 months, it's been more like 6 years, actually. But we've gotten a lot of good things done in those 5 months, despite the stress. I was at an event a couple of weeks ago with my young brother, Chris Cuomo, ABC News. You'll see him from time to time. But he's the youngster in the family, and he's the wise guy of the family, my brother Chris. So we were at an event, and a young lady walked up to me, who I hadn't seen in a while, and she said, "You know, you look more distinguished than I remember you." I said, "Well, thank you very much. I look more distinguished." "Thank you, thank you." Turned to my brother, and I said, "See, I look more distinguished." He says, "Yeah, that means you have more gray hair than she remembers." So it has been a long 5 months, but we've made great progress. And we are now coming down to the final few weeks of the legislative session. And we're going to decide what gets done in Albany, what gets done in the state legislature, what doesn't get done in the state legislature, and it all comes down to the next few weeks. I want to give you a presentation now on what I believe we need to be focusing on over the next few weeks and what I hope to get done. Hopefully, you'll take an interest in it and you will get involved in it, and that's how it will get done. I was elected governor of the state because I said I would focus on 3 goals. Number 1, to get the economy running in the state again, to clean up Albany, ethics reform, to give you a government that you can trust and you're proud of, and to return New York to the legacy of social progress that it made. Phase 1. Phase 1 has been completed. We're off to a good start. The package of reforms that were in the budget. We passed a state budget that was honest. There were no gimmicks. It was balanced, and it was actually done on time, which is a big deal, especially in Albany. The budget did a few things. It closed a $10 billion deficit, and it closed it without raising taxes or without borrowing. It ended what was called the automatic inflators in the government spending. Government programs were going up 14% every year, automatically, in the law. And if you wonder why New York State always had a deficit, why the budget was always out of balance, programs were going up 14%. That's why. And if the spending is increasing 14%, that's why we always had an economic problem. We introduced performance funding into the government program. So it's not just spending money, but it's actually getting performance. And we are focusing on the economy and bringing back jobs, which is what this government should have been doing in the first place. There's more to be done. Reforming Albany is now in phase 2, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. On the first goal of getting the economy running, we started by getting the state spending under control. That's what the state budget is about, the amount of money that the state is going to spend. And there are no new taxes after the state budget. Period. No new taxes, not little taxes, not hidden taxes, not taxes we call something else. No new taxes, closing a $10 billion deficit. So the state spending is not going to go up. Now we have to turn and focus on the spending of local governments. Why? Because when you pay taxes, to you it doesn't matter if the state taxes are going up or the local taxes are going up. What matters is taxes are going up. We focused on the state taxes. We now want to turn to the local government taxes. New York's hidden tax is New York's property tax. It is the highest in the nation. When measured by the assessed valuation of homes, the top 15 highest tax counties are in New York. By absolute dollars, Nassau County in New York is the highest tax county in the nation, period. Westchester number 2, Rockland number 5. Oneida County is the 28th highest property tax. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, 28. Really, 28 of 2,000 counties in the state and the nation. That's bad. All of the counties in the state of New York are in the top 20% in the nation for the highest property taxes. Median property tax bill, $1,900. State of New York, $3,700, 96% higher. The rate of increase in the property taxes is unsustainable. And these are averages of annual increases. at a time when inflation is going up 2.9%. And inflation is supposed to be the index, right? The national index of the inflation in the cost of products and goods, 2.9%. County taxes are going up at 5.7 on average statewide, 5.1 city taxes. Look at the far end. Schools, 7.5% per year. Fire districts, 7.6%. The bottom line, the simple truth, is that this state has no economic future as the tax capital of the nation. People will move, businesses will move, and that's what we're doing. It was a public opinion poll that was released last week. Listen to this. 36% of those who are 30 years or older are planning to move within the next 5 years from the state because it's too expensive. 26% of all people are planning to move from New York because it's just too expensive. That, my friends, is a frightening, frightening statistic. And it's not just that the property taxes affect the homes. We tend to think of the property tax as a residential tax. It's the number one tax for businesses. Businesses only pay $3 billion in corporate income tax. They pay $16 billion in property tax. When the businesses are complaining about taxes in New York, they're complaining about the property tax. So what's the answer? To pass a statewide cap on property taxes that says once and for all, you can't raise local property taxes beyond a certain level. We say 2% as what's called a hard cap. That local governments can't raise a property tax more than 2% per year. If they want to raise it more than 2%, then you have to get a vote of the people by 60%. Why 60% and not 50%? Normally a vote 51% wins. I want 60% because in this case, for once, I want the odds to be in favor of the taxpayer. If you're talking about raising taxes, additionally, over the 2%, you should win by a 60% margin. And let's skew the deck in the favor of the taxpayer and the homeowner because it's been against the taxpayer and the homeowner for too long. That's what the property tax cap proposal is. It's not a new proposal. It's not novel to New York. It was actually done in Massachusetts. Massachusetts enacted a property tax cap in 1980. It was at the time the second most taxed state in the nation. They used to call it Taxachusetts. Do you remember? Today, Massachusetts is number 23. So it would start to impose fiscal discipline on our governments. Why? Because obviously we can't keep this rate of increase, and you need fiscal discipline, and governments have to exercise fiscal discipline. They have to adjust to the new economy. They have to do the same thing every family and every business in this state has done, which is find efficiency, find effectiveness, tighten their belt, and live within the means, because the answer can't be more taxes because the people in this state don't have more money to pay more taxes, period. And it's time we start to learn some fiscal discipline, and this cap will do that. Not only do we need fiscal discipline, but we need a new attitude in New York, where it's not just how much you spend in government, but it's what you achieve. It's about the performance. It's about the results. And in government, it's all about more money, without looking at what we're actually getting. New York spends more money per pupil for education than any state in the nation. Period. More money than any state. We're number 34 in terms of results. How can that be? How can you be spending more money per student and you're number 34 in terms of results? Massachusetts, to use the comparison again, New York spends 28% more per student for education than Massachusetts. New York is number 40, Massachusetts is 14 in graduation rates. Massachusetts is number 1 in test scores. New York is number 25. Why? Because they're focusing on performance. They're focusing on results, We're focusing on more money, more money, more money. This is the story of education in New York. Over the past, since 1996, so the past 15 years or so, look at these numbers. Enrollment of the number of students in public schools is down 4%. Why? Because it's a matter of demographics. We just have fewer school-age children. Total spending on education has gone up 120%, 10% more teachers, and 34% more supervisors. 34% more supervisors. 34% more supervisors. Do you understand what I am trying to communicate with you today? What we did in education is what corporations did. They bloated the front office. More and more bosses. Corporations that did this are now out of business, or they're bankrupt. Government bureaucracy just continues to grow. We've been spending more and more on education to hire more management, more bureaucracy. We're not putting the resources in the classroom. It's not about more teachers and more books and more computers and more resources for the students. It's about more infrastructure and more bureaucracy for the educators. This is not about growing an education bureaucracy. That's not what this is. It's not about growing an education industry. It's about student achievement and student graduation and student performance. Remember the student in education. And this will be a different education process in the state of New York. We also need... We also need, with the property tax cap, a mandate relief package which reduces the number of what they call unfunded mandates, where the state tells local governments what to do but doesn't provide any money to do it. And we also need to reform the pension system. As the senator mentioned, we announced an agreement on a property tax cap basically along these lines yesterday. We have to sign it, and in Albany nothing is done until it is done. But this would be an historic step forward for this state. And if we get this done, I think we change the trajectory of New York State for the better, and I'm very excited about it, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. In terms of mandate relief, we have a mandate relief redesign team that's working. We'll have a package at the end of session that will reduce mandates. And in terms of reforming the public pension system, we just can't afford the public pension system as it now exists. The 1998, the pensions cost the state $1.3 billion. In 2013, it will be $6 billion. We can't afford that rate of increase. I've proposed a new tier for pension reform in the state, and we need to get that done. In terms of the second big task, it's cleaning up Albany. It's ethics reform. There's been a long line of disgraced politicians in the state. I was the Attorney General for 4 years. I did many of these cases one by one, politician after politician. And as the senator said, we're at a point where we have to restore faith in the system and restore faith in the democracy. Literally, that's what we have to do. We have a part-time legislature, which means assemblymen, senators are part-time assemblymen, senators, and part-time they're in the private sector. That is what the law says. That's what the Constitution says. We wanted a citizen legislature. It also has raised the question and the issue of conflicts of interest. You're a part-time senator or assemblyman. Who else do you represent in your private capacity? And do you represent people in your private capacity before the state of New York, which happens to be the place where a lot of legislators have gotten into trouble in the past. And a lot of the cases I did dealt exactly with this area. So ethics reform poses a very simple question to the legislators. Who else do you represent in your private capacity before the state? And is there a conflict of interest in you representing that client in a private capacity and you representing the people of the state of New York? Ethics reform asks the legislature to answer that question. It also asks them to release a list of all representation before the state and how much they pay the legislator. If the legislature fails to answer the question, in my opinion, they just did. Sometimes a non-answer is an answer. And if they are unwilling to disclose who they represent and how much they're getting paid, I think that is a problem, and it's hard to restore the trust. The legislature says we don't need any ethics reform. The legislature's position is they can police themselves. Well, let me finish. You happen to be right, but let me finish. Their position is we can police ourselves, and we don't need anyone looking at the legislature besides the legislature itself. There is a legislative ethics committee, which is made up of legislators, and the legislative ethics committee is now in charge of policing the legislature. It's been in existence since 2007. It has never taken a real action. Since 2007, these are the people who have been indicted or convicted who were sitting legislators. And you know what the Legislative Ethics Committee said while all of this was going on? Nothing. Took absolutely no action. My friends, self-policing is an oxymoron. Anywhere. When somebody says, I'm going to self-police, say there's no such concept as self-police. By definition, I don't care who says it, you can't self-police. The legislature can't police itself. It has been trying to do it for years, and it has failed. And politician after politician has gotten into trouble, and we're not going to restore faith until you can say to the people of this state, there's a system in place that is actually independent and objective and is protecting the people's interest. We need an independent monitor. We need it now. We need ethics reform for you to trust this legislature, and this legislature should not leave without passing ethics reform, and you should send them that message. And the third item and the last item on the agenda is New York social progress. New York has been the home to social progress for many, many years. Historically, the legacy of this state was that this state was the most progressive state. And this state led the way, and for many decades, the other states followed New York. Why? Because we were the most sophisticated, we were the most diverse, we dealt with many problems first. And we dealt with them, and we resolved them, and the other states looked to us for an example. The environmental movement started right here in the state of New York. The Storm King controversy on the Hudson River, Hudson Valley, started a movement of people concerned about the environment, spread across the state, then spread across the nation. The women's rights movement started here in New York. That was Seneca Falls. That movement was birthed in New York. The workers' rights movement, the labor movement, started in New York. The Triangle Factory fire spurred it, but the conditions of factories and the density and the health conditions is what started the workers' rights movement. It is our legacy to see these complex issues and deal with them first. The issue of marriage equality is such an issue. It is today a present civil rights issue on which this state should act. At one time, it was illegal in some states for interracial couples to marry. A black person could not marry a white person. It was illegal. Just 1968 is when it was made unconstitutional. For some of you, 1968 seems like a long time ago. 1968 was not that long ago. I have a car from 1968 that I still drive. It was not that long ago. 1968 was just yesterday. And think about it. This nation, states in this nation were still saying blacks and whites can't marry in 1968. Progress is an evolutionary process. 10 years from now, we will look back at today and say, I can't believe that this nation, we had states that said two people can't get married just because they're gay. That's the only reason. And it will be as absurd 10 years from today as it is for us looking back at 1968 today. I am not asking you Now, this is a complex issue, and it is a controversial issue. But my position is this. I am not asking you what your religion says about marriage. I'm not asking you what your God says about marriage. I'm not asking you what your culture says about marriage. That is your business. I have my religion, you have your religion, and let's keep it that way. I'm saying what the society says as a civil matter, what is the state of the law? And I don't believe you can say as a matter of law, these two people can't get married just because they are gay. I don't believe that is legal, and I don't believe that should be the law in the state of New York. There are other states. There are other states that have passed marriage equality: Massachusetts, Connecticut, Iowa, Vermont, and New Hampshire. It's time for New York to catch up. It's time for New York to catch up this year and pass marriage equality for all New Yorkers. And let's get it done before this legislature leaves. To recap, first, we have to get the economy running. We have to clean up Albany. We have to return New York's legacy of social progress. Now is the time to do it. June 20th is D-Day. That is the date that the legislature is going to leave Albany to go home. My message to you is simple today. Tell your legislators, pass these bills or just don't come home, period. In closing, my friends, there's always a simple truth. I believe that. I don't care how complicated the matter is. There tends to be a simple truth that tends to be a matter of right or wrong, a principle that you need to identify. I was on the phone with one of my daughters the other night, Mariah, and she was calling up to explain a situation she has in her life. She's away at school, and she had told one set of friends that she was going to enroll in certain courses, and she started to enroll in those courses, but then another set of friends were enrolling in other courses, and she had told those friends she would be with them, and now she had two sets of courses, and she's trying to explain this dynamic, and she was getting frustrated, and she said, well, you know, Dad, it's complicated, you just wouldn't understand. You know, she's 16, and she has a simpleton for a dad, and, you know, I'm no good with complex matters. I need simple. You have to keep it simple for me. But I said to her, look, maybe I'm a simpleton. I'm sorry that you're burdened with me as a father in life, but we all have a cross to bear, honey, and that's yours. But in my own simple way, I believe there tends to be a simple truth to any matter. And I don't understand the friends and I don't understand the courses, but there is a right or a wrong. There is a truth in there somewhere. And the point is always to identify the truth, identify what is right, and to do the right thing. What is this ethics issue about? Ethics reform, disclosure, transparency, Senate, Assembly. It sounds complicated. It's not complicated. It's about trust. Any relationship in life is only as good as the level of trust. I don't care if it's a husband and wife. I don't care if it's a parent and a child. I don't care if it's a friend. The relationship is only as good as the trust. And you don't trust this government in Albany. Why? Because you've watched it. That's why. And you've watched it for years. And you're tired of opening the newspaper and see scandal after scandal. And it's been going on episode after episode after episode. Well, doesn't mean the legislators say, well, we're not all bad. Of course not. 99.9% of the legislators are beautiful people, are good people. It's Roanne, it's Joe. They're there to do the right thing. They're there to make their community better. That's why they're there. They leave their families. They're there for days. It's a very tough job, and they're there to do the right thing. That's 99.9. But for you to have trust, you have to know that after all these episodes of a violation of those trusts, there is a system in place that is going to catch the bad apples and make sure that that system is working so you're not going to pay the price. That's what ethics reform is. If you're not doing anything you're ashamed of, then tell me what you're doing. And when you won't tell me what you're doing, then I think you have something to hide, and it makes me suspicious. So disclose your clients, disclose what you're doing before the state, disclose who is paying you so I know who you're working for. Because I thought you were working for me. And if you're not working for me, I want to know who you're working for. Otherwise, don't be my elected official. And if you can't put that system in place, then don't expect me to trust you. And I need to trust you because you're my legislator. And the government won't work unless I trust you. So to make the relationship function, pass ethics reform so we have a clear understanding between us and we can make this government work for the state of New York. That's ethics reform. That's trust. That's what it's all about. Property tax cap. It's about respect. 2%, 6%, 9%, caps, no caps. Property tax cap is about respect. Respect the taxpayer. Respect the taxpayer's situation. You're going to raise a taxpayer's taxes 7%, 10% every year. How? How? Whose income is going up 7%? Whose home value is going up 7%? Where is the taxpayer supposed to get the money? Well, we're just going to keep sending the bill and sending the bill and sending the bill. And where do they get the money? It's gone up over 70%. Where is a taxpayer supposed to get the money? You know how many people have come up to me and said, Andrew, I can't afford to stay in my house. I can't afford the property taxes. I have to move. We're forcing people from their homes, senior citizens on fixed incomes, and you keep raising the taxes year after year after year. Where are they supposed to pay? Respect their situation. Respect their feelings. This is not my agenda. This is what the people of the state said to me they need to get done. These are not my ideas. These are your ideas. 4 years as Attorney General, going all across this state, this is the agenda that needs to be passed for the people. And what this is really about is to see if that government in Albany is going to work for the people. Who really controls the government? And is it going to be the citizens who control the government, or is it going to be the lobbyists who finance the campaigns that control the government? Is it going to be the people, or is it going to be the politicians? That's what this is all about. Who's going to win? What's going to happen in the next few weeks? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Are we going to put the people first or not? It's up to you. You know who makes this system work or not work? You do. Because democracy does work. But there's a condition precedent to democracy working. You have to make your voice heard. Democracy responds to the people. If the people speak. Otherwise, you have no right to complain. When the legislature goes to Albany or they go to Washington, and there's a whole industry in Washington and a whole industry in Albany with one purpose, to influence that legislator. Whole lobbying industry. You walk the hallways in the Capitol, they're all there. Whole industry of lobbyists. Everybody, every corporation has a lobbyist. And they're there to influence the legislators. What is the counter-pressure? The counter-pressure is the people in their district. If the people in their district speak up, and if the people in the district are silent, then the people in the hallways of the Capitol win. You have to speak up. You have to make your voice heard. And now is the time to do it. The senator will vote the way you tell him to vote. The assembly people vote the way you tell them to vote. The governors vote the way you tell them to vote. Why? Otherwise, I'm not the governor. I understand it. If I'm not responsive to the people, then the people don't re-elect me. I get it. But the premise is the people act. And now is the time to do it because this state is poised to change the trajectory. We've had a great 5 months. We passed that budget. Nobody thought we could do it. Nobody thought we could close that $10 billion deficit with no taxes. We have made great progress. We're going to pass this property tax cap. It's going to be revolutionary. You can see this state take off. And we so badly need it because I am tired of hearing stories about the old days. I'm tired of hearing stories about what Utica did and what Rome did and what Buffalo did and what Syracuse did. I want to hear stories about what we're going to do. I'm tired about talking about yesterday. I want to talk about tomorrow. I'm tired of seeing young people going to airports because they think they have to fly somewhere else to find their future. Their future is right here in this state of New York. My friends, at one time I left New York. I didn't lose the accent, though. And I went down and I worked in Washington. I spent all 8 years in Washington during the Clinton administration. I worked in every state in this nation, over 600 cities for 8 years. So I've seen everything else that is out there. Nobody has what we have here in New York. Any young person who's in this room who thinks they're going to find something better out there, I've been out there. Don't waste your time. There is nothing better out there. We have it all in this state. You don't have anywhere else the combination we have here. The cities, the rural areas, the history, the geography, the diversity, the workforce, the university system. Nobody has what we have in New York. The one thing we haven't had is a government in Albany as good as the people of this state. It's the one thing we haven't had. It's what we're going to get back. It's what we're going to get back in these next few weeks. You deserve a government that you can trust, and you deserve a government that performs for you. And that's what Joe, Rowan, and I, and every other member in that legislature in Albany is going to deliver over these next few weeks. Thank you, and God bless you.